I take the view on this from a consumer side point. The internet right now has worked fine for the last 60 years, almost 60 years. And it's worked really well, and I see that passing the COPE Act, C-O-P-E Act, without a net neutrality clause, an enforceable net neutrality clause, would effectively give the telecom companies too much control over the internet, and they already have coined the phrase speed pay. Now this is it's a difficult subject to talk about from a layman's standpoint, because you think, well, Harry down the road here, he's got a 56K connection, he runs at 56,000 bits, and somebody else down here's got a 4 million connection. What's the difference? Well, there's a lot of difference. We pay for our connection to the internet. That's not the speed pay we're talking about. The speed pay we're talking about is out in the internet, and what these telecoms are going to charge us. I look at it as a door, opening the door to them to be able to nickel dime us and raise what we pay for internet every month and every year from now on. It's giving something that doesn't belong to them too much power over something that doesn't belong to them. The internet belongs to the people. Thank you.
And I agree with Jim on that point. And you said it worked well for 60 years, except 15 months ago, there was a massive sea change in how the internet is treated by the law. As Greg Service mentioned, that it used to be treated like telegraph. The notion of common carriage, everyone has equal access, all messages are treated the same. 15 months ago, that part of the regulation of the internet went away. Simultaneous to that, the CEO of AT&T, Ed Whitaker, started making public statements saying, yeah, you know what, Google and Amazon, and maybe not YouTube, are using up all our bandwidth. So all the consumers who subscribe to our service are soaking up the bandwidth watching these videos on Google, or listening to music from different sites. And they're not paying us. We're just getting paid by the consumers. But we're not getting a check from Google. They're using up our bandwidth. It's interesting how those two things went together. And yet, Google, Amazon, or other people pay for their connection to the internet. They pay a lot of money. As an independent media maker, I put up my show on the internet. And I pay a monthly fee to a service to put my show up there and to allow people to download it. And there's a limit to how many times my show can be downloaded for what I pay. If I want more people to be able to access my show, I pay more. And I'm paying that to the people who host the server, who host the connection to the internet, so people can get my show. And it's a very simple equation, and that's the way the internet has always worked. But what AT&T want to do now is to say, oh no, Mr. Riesmandel, if you'd like people who subscribe to AT&T broadband services to get your show in a reasonably timely fashion, you're going to owe us an extra $1 for each download. So we know you pay to some guy in California or Chicago to host it, but now you owe us an extra $1 for each of those downloads. You see, you're using our bandwidth. And so if I'm just your average internet user, maybe I'm making videos now. Maybe I'm making art. Maybe I'm just sending photos to share with my family. You think, okay, I pay my monthly bill to my ISP, AT&T or Inside Cable, and so I've paid it. But now it's a double dipping. They want to start charging you for then the other end, whether it's someone who downloads it locally or someone who downloads it across the world or across the country. You'll pay again for all those downloads. That's why we need net neutrality to be put back into law. What was undone 15 months ago needs to come back so that internet we've enjoyed all those years continues to be the same internet we'll continue to enjoy.
All right. I think that was very well said. I agree with Jim and Paul on this. I'm not sure what the academic voice is supposed to be. I left my tweed jacket at home.
Bigger words,
but yes, in fact, that is a problem, because a lot of academics, a lot of so-called experts will try to say that this is a very complicated issue, and it really isn't very complicated at all. I think one way of describing it, what some people have characterized it as, that net neutrality is essentially the First Amendment for the internet. It's been a guiding principle, and I think we need to really reinforce this for almost the last 100 years. And so it's only been recently, it's been with the Brand X decision and recent FCC decisions, that suddenly we no longer have net neutrality. But if you listen to people like Tim Johnson and many representatives from the telecom industries, they will make it sound as if the pro-net neutrality people want to reintroduce or just introduce an onerous regulation. That's not the case at all. That was something that we always took for granted, that prevented this kind of tiering from the internet. And the most alarming thing that can happen once you remove net neutrality provisions is outright blocking of content. And that's always the thing that gets people's attention right away. The idea that certain types of content will be blocked from everyday users. But actually, even though there is evidence that has and can happen and will happen, the more insidious, the more subtle effect of an internet without net neutrality is this degrading of services, so that it would actually slow down particular websites. Certain websites that don't have a special deal with, say, Comcast, those sites won't download as quickly as other websites that do have this deal. So it's based on sort of a contractual relationship. That can only happen without net neutrality. That would change the essence of the internet. It would change everyone's experience of the internet. So going back to the original question, like, should someone who uses the internet a lot worry about this? Anyone who uses the internet should worry about the loss of net neutrality. And I think we can return to this, and I know we will a lot more throughout the discussion tonight. But another thing to keep in mind too is that internationally we are going in the opposite direction from all of our competitors. We're now ranked about 16th in broadband growth, between 15th and 16th. And this is something that's really noteworthy when you look at how countries like France, South Korea, Japan, they're all maintaining net neutrality provisions. So that's another thing that oftentimes you'll hear big telecom corporations saying that we need to remove net neutrality so that we can raise more money, so that we can build out more infrastructure. There's a lot of evidence that goes against this. I'll stop there for now.
This is an issue of great importance to me. Excuse me. It's interesting, Victor, that you talk about insidious slowing down, because my website moves like molasses. I've wondered about that. I'm a challenger candidate, and in this country, the deck is stacked against challengers who are trying to run for Congress. 2 to 3% succeed. And one of the problems, there are many factors that are responsible for that low success rate among challengers. One of them is the gradual consolidation of media that we've seen in this country over the last 30 years. And I'm afraid that what's going on with this Telecommunications Act, the COPE Act that got passed, is another factor along those same lines. Anytime the money starts flying around, something I've learned in my 3 3/4 years of running for Congress, and I have no background in electoral politics, so it's been a steep learning curve, but something I've been somewhat aware of prior to running, but very intensely aware of since I began campaigning, is follow the money. And when the money starts flying around, start sniffing around. The lobbying dollars that are flowing into Congress from the telecommunications firms are just overwhelming over the last 2 to 3 years. My opponent took 3 separate checks from AT&T around the time of that vote on June 8th. Almost a please, please, and thank you. 2 checks before and 1 check after. And that immediately raises concerns as far as I'm concerned. There's a freedom of speech issue here where voices are going to be shut out if this gets through. It's not quite through the Senate yet, is it?
No, it's not.
And I was watching a program that Bill Moyers produced about this very topic last week on public TV. And when Bill Moyers talks, he usually is speaking about things that are dear to my heart. And this is one of those types of things. Something else that came to mind when you were talking about the theoretical young man at the start. A a lot of times we don't know what we've missed either. If something never comes to pass, you don't know that you didn't get to have access to that. YouTube was mentioned, and something like YouTube might never have caught on or become as popular as it became if this law had been in effect a couple of years previously. It would have been, you know, the images would have been grainy and slow, and people would have been turning it off. And so there's the great immeasurable unknown. What won't we ever encounter if this gets through the Senate and goes into effect?